Okay, so now we're going to actually do the nesting portion of the automation. So we're going to go up here into RhinoCAM 2024. We're going to select Nest, and you'll see that the nesting browser is showed here on the left. And it's, if you haven't played with the nesting module, if you haven't used it before, it consists of various tabbed areas in this dialog that you go through from working away from the top down to the bottom. And when you're done, you'll have a completely nested sheet geometry ready for machining. So we're going to use the true shape nesting option here at the top. And we're going to go into the select sheets. As you see, we got no sheets defined. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a sheet that is going to use to nest these parts into. So we're going to just pick the Add Sheets button. And I've got some default parameters in there already. We're going to do a 5-foot by 5-foot panel sheet. So that's 60 inches by 60 inches. We're running in inches, by the way, for the units. And for the thickness, we're going to leave it set to 0 for now. And we're going to automate that as we go along. And I'll show you how to do that. And we currently have 1 count. So we're just going to add the sheet to the list. And you'll see that we've got 1 sheet listed. It's displayed in blue right here. This is not actual geometry. This is just a area that the nesting creates for you to show you where the nesting is going to take place. So let's go on down to the next tab. So the Select Parts for Nesting tab, as I mentioned, these are all the parts we're going to nest. So we're going to just select the Parts button, and we're going to window select all of our parts that we laid out, and we're going to right click. And as you can see over here, it put all of the nested parts into the Select Parts List to Nest tab into this table right here. And if you do a quick look at these, you'll see that it has a number of panels. It's got holes in the panels. A couple of panels have multiple holes here and over here and here as well. So we've got all the parts listed. One thing you do want to do at this point, you need to know the actual exact thickness of your components because it has to match the thickness of the sheet. So we get this little drop-down menu at the top that says thickness filter, and it's going to tell you the thickness of your components. Now in this list, it will always have a 0, 0, and then it will have the thickness of your components. All of the components in this assembly are 0.709 thick. Okay, so we're going to just show that there, and we're going to come back up here to the sheets and make that thickness 0.709. Okay, so now we have the sheet. Just a second, I lost my mouse. There we go. So we have the sheet defined. Its thickness is 0.709 inches. We have all of our components listed on the Parts tab. And we're going to be doing 1 count. So we're going to lay out and nest a panel for 1 assembly. Okay, and it's all going to fit on this 1 5-foot by 5-foot sheet. Okay, so we don't need any of these other options right now. So we're going to go to the Choose Nesting Parameters. Now this dialog is a little bit long, so you'll see we're scrolling up and down to see all of the dialog. So we're going to start at the top for nesting options. So similar to the flat panel layout, it's going to ask you the distance that you want between the components on the sheet. So I'm going to make this 3/4 of an inch. I'm going to be using a 1/2 inch diameter end mill. So the thickness between them is going to be more than a 1/2 inch so that we're not running, cutting both panels on both sides just by running one path through it. We want a little bit larger than a 1/2 inch. So I'm making it 3/4 of an inch. That's part to part. And I'm going to make this the distance from any part to the sheet 1/8 of an inch. Okay, so we get some good clean cuts around the perimeters. So those are the nesting options there. Let's scroll on down here. You got options to automatically tag your geometry. We're not going to use that. And you also have remnant control. If you don't use the whole sheet, you can use these options to automatically calculate the portion of the sheet you didn't use, and then it will automatically use that in the next nest, so you don't waste any material. But our nest will take up the entire sheet. So we're going to pick this button here for estimate number of sheets. Now we know there's going to be one sheet, I already told you, but if you don't know, just pick this button here and it'll calculate based on the number of parts that you have, the size of your sheet, and it's going to tell you how many sheets it's going to take to nest these components. So I have one sheet required, and I mentioned that if you don't know how many sheets when you define your actual sheets, you can leave the total alone, and then you can use this little utility here, estimate number of sheets. It'll calculate it for you. Pick this button, it'll automatically add those number of sheets to the Sheets tab. So it tells you that it's been updated, the number of sheets to 1. So that dialog goes away. So what did we do up to this point? We selected our nesting type. We did a true shape nesting versus a rectangular nesting. True shape just takes the actual shape of the part into consideration when it's nested, and the rectangular just takes a rectangular area around the part and nests it. And then on the Sheets tab, we created a sheet 60 inches by 60 inches. And we left the thickness alone at 0, or I guess it's at 0 when you first create it. And then we went down to the Parts tab, and we used the Select Parts button, and we select all of our panels that we laid out flat using the utility in the mill module. And you see our count is all set to 1. And you also see that the parts that have cutouts in them will show those cutouts as a part and a whole. Okay. So we got 2 panels that actually have cutouts in them. Okay, so then we went down and we set our nesting parameters. What do we want to use for dimensions and calculating our sheets automatically. Went back and set the sheets count automatically. So now we're at a point where we can actually execute the nest. So we pick the execute nest button. So what this is showing you, just an outline of the parts. This is not the actual nest. This is just an outline showing you where your parts are going to be nested at on the sheet. And if you had multiple sheets, you'd have each sheet listed here in the sheets list, and you can see each sheet and see how the parts are nested if multiple sheets are used. And if for any reason a part wasn't nested, some reasons for this may be that if you have a component that is not the same thickness as the rest of them, it will not be nested on this sheet that is 0.709 thickness. It will actually tell you the different thicknesses. If you have another component that's a different thickness, then you can go into the select sheets and create a second sheet with that exact thickness. Okay, so but all of our parts are on one sheet of the same thickness. Okay, so now we're going to go to the last tab here on the Commit Nesting tab, and we're going to create all the components in a separate layer. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and pick the Commit Nest button. Now, once you pick this Commit Nest button, the actual geometry, the actual solid panels are going to be laid out on the XY plane. So once you do that, you're telling the utility here that I'm done, everything is how I want it, and I'm going to commit it. So you see that went really quick. It created a layer up here. Okay, if we just do that, you'll see that the nested layout is now on one layer called a rectangular sheet, and it just automatically gives it a name. Okay, so at this point we have the nested sheet. Let's go ahead and do this. So we got the nested components, and then we got our laid out components. Okay, For now, we're just going to go, sorry about that. We're going to go to the top view, and we're going to go ahead and hide this for now. Okay, so I'll just hide that. Okay, so here is our nested sheet of components. This is the sheet, if you recall in the slide at the beginning, was used in step 3 of actually laying out your components on a sheet. So this is what we're going to use to actually do the machining portion of the webinar.